I mean, you go to a movie and there's sounds and it helps you feel really like there's drama going on and where you're in the scene. So I started making recordings, like I talked about before, and taking samples and putting them in.
Well, what were your first recordings
like? That's right. They were sort of similar sounding, you know, some rain and some dragon or whatever, but they were, of course, then burnt to CD and played on a CD player.
Oh, wow.
And the actual genesis of Syrinscape comes back to a moment which I mentioned before, which was we were in town and there was supposed to be an adventure happening where the players go off and kill the dragon or whatever. And instead they were negotiating for like literally an hour and a half with this barman about how much they were going to be paid or whatever, which is what RPGs are all about. And play actually stopped, and they actually all stopped to a man, and they all together, almost all of them, said, oh! Because this stupid pattern had come round for like the 7th time. And human brains are really, really good at noticing patterns. And that was taking the players out of immersion rather than keeping them in. Now, what you asked was, am I a software programmer? So yeah, so I started making longer and longer and longer recordings. And then I just thought, this is ridiculous. This is something a computer can do really well. So I got a programming language I could program in and wrote the original version of Syrinscape 10 years ago.
That is amazing. Wow, that's so cool. So, so they're like randomly generated. So are you, as a composer and a sound engineer, like, are you making things that loop that you will know will fit very well into these kinds of settings?
So we when it comes to music, one of the things that's very common in computer games is to have layered musical tracks which all fit together. That's right. So that you literally start them all in perfect sequence, and you have a bass element and a kind of a mid-range spooky chord element and some clangy sort of scary piano chords. That's right. And then they can be turned off or on, sort of gradually raising or lowering the tension, which is a super cool thing. So we do that absolutely. And then, as I said, so those men screaming would be at least 20 samples of different kinds of screams. And then that becomes a little bucket that the men screaming element picks from. And it just picks a random one, it takes it, puts it this time ages away, so it's actually almost inaudible. Adds the city echo sound and plays it. And then waits.
That's how it adds richness.
Absolutely, and that's exactly. And then it waits a randomized amount of time. And then picks another man screaming, "Hello, little man," and this time it's sort of right behind
bigger.
you. Yeah.
Oh, that's so. So it's not only randomly generating the clips that it's choosing, but also kind of the hierarchy of all that sound mixing.
That's right.
That
absolutely.
is so cool. Has there any been like a time when it did not sound well? Like the computer isn't, it isn't a person, it doesn't have a musical ear. So how do you like mitigate some of those
No, there is
problems?
absolutely a threshold, but mainly in the design of the sound. So we have, the tool I actually use, we actually made available to the whole audience. It's called the Syrinscape Soundset Creator. And with that, you're basically playing with those knobs and setting the volumes and the distances that it's allowed to distribute and all those sorts of things. And there is definitely a threshold where a sound design will sound quite awful. I mean, because when I first wanted sound at the table, I searched around for other products that were available, and I listened to lots of them, and the sound design was not particularly brilliant, you know, and that takes you out of immersion. And then, there's this threshold where things are almost right, kind of the uncanny valley. It's sort of the elements are there, but they're not placed right. As you said, maybe the dragon sounds like it's right here, and like it's meant to be destroying the town, but I can hear it like whispering in my ear. That doesn't make any sense. And then you jump over that final little hurdle, and suddenly the sound is completely natural and awesome. So say you've got chittering bugs in a kind of a Cthulhu-esque environment.
Creepy crawlies.
That's right. They need to be, it can't be like, you're like, oh, that's sort of weird. There's a chittering bug speaker, you know, right next to me. But if it's almost subliminal, you know, right on the edge of sort of consciousness, it becomes very, very disturbing very, very quickly.
For sure. So 10 years, you wanting to hear sounds at the GM table, using your own software programming language, amazing. How have you grown in that enormous amount of time? I mean, it's actually not that long for a company, but I mean, as a creative person.
So I shared Syrinscape, the little version I wrote, which was good sound-wise, but kind of appalling UI-wise. I shared it online as donationware. And people gave money for it, and people said, really, you can still search back. There's some posts on RPG.net talking about Syrinscape and how awesome it is and recommending it. And so that was really fantastic. And I was working in an arts project, an amazing arts project called What Opera, where a musical director and conductor and a director and volunteer would go into schools, and we were writing dramatic works from scratch with high school kids. And they had complete creative control, and we were having operas about roller derby queens and pencil cases where the protractor was in love with the rubber and all that sort of stuff.
That sounds fun.
And the amazing entrepreneur who was backing that project had lots of tech contacts. Yeah. So I literally approached him just to find someone who could help me rewrite the program.
And grow this.
And he kind of went sort of, what is this thing? And can you show me it? And so, 5 years ago, we actually formed an actual company with funding, and we did the whole professional thing. And that's why it's amazing. So I wrote like only 15% maybe of the new code. All the algorithms are the same, but it looks so beautiful, and it's really, really easy to use and really reliable. And you can download it just like that, and it starts up and all that sort of stuff.
And you guys are still kind of a small company, right?
Yeah, we're it.
Yeah, that's right. We put on a whole extra person. In fact, just a month ago, in response to a few enormous licenses we've recently acquired. So yeah.
So if I'm tweeting at you in Twitter or DMing, or I have questions or suggestions, am I talking to you or
me
that
or
answer
Jenny
is yes.
That's right.
It's right here.
Well, it's either Ben, myself, or I'm going to give a shout out to Steve, our community manager.
Yes.
He actually can't be here at Gen Con because he's getting married this week.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Steve and Rex. We're very happy for you. So it's us, and then the fabulous people who make this.
And various people around. There's a guy called Morgan Rands who collects sounds from his community of role players. He's sort of semi-famous as being the voice of Barzillai Thrun on the amazing Hell's Rebels adventure path for Pathfinder, which is super cool. When we were at PaizoCon recently, we recorded a whole lot of Pathfinder fans who wanted to give their voices to the Curse of the Crimson Throne, which just came out in the Fantasy Player.
So you have fans that are doing like the Walla Walla stuff. Okay, that's so cool.
It's super cool.
We started doing this thing at conventions, at like Gen Con, where we have the Syrinscape Sound Cave. So if you come to our booth on the floor in the exhibit hall, we actually have a mini recording studio set up. And so we'll be, we'll announce ahead of time that we're going to be collecting people's voices and sounds to add into a forthcoming soundtrack or sound set. So yeah, like Ben was saying, for example, the Shoggoth is a great one. Tell the story of the Shoggoth.
So last year I made a guide track of me saying things all in sequence, which were sort of collected from the fans on the internet. So I put out a post. I'm just seeing if it's loaded. Shoggoth. It might be a little bit. Okay. And so I made a guide track of like, I want to eat your soul, and the great deep will come and consume you, and all this sort of stuff. And then all over the entire world, in the UK and PAX Unplugged and Gen Con and Essen in Germany, everyone came into the studio, put on the headphones, and in time all spoke these lines. And then we let them also improvise after just general horrible flesh-eating, destroying things. And we built this into a sound set, and now the world speaks together in Syrinscape.
Literally.
Through the Shoggoth creature.
Shoggoth of Borg.
Cool.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally like a Borg thing, right? Like
just see if I can find
1,000 fan voices making up the singular voice of the Shoggoth. It's pretty so creepy.
Super cool. So everyone who donates in the sound booth gets the content that we build for free. So they get to hear themselves like terrifying people.
That is amazing. It's just it's so when you have such good sound design like this, it actually fills in the others. It gives me visuals and textures and like a flavor in my mouth, and I'm like, this place is, to me, cold and misty, and the hairs are standing up on my arm and that kind of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. Sometimes it's only when you stop Syrinscape at the gaming table that you notice just how uncomfortable everyone was feeling. And one of the biggest unexpected benefits of it that I found, which I hadn't anticipated, is actually delineating when the game is on and when the game is not on. It's one of the problems when you're trying to roleplay is if someone's on their phone or they're just wanting to ask about someone's brother snacking, that's right. So this keeps everyone so intense and at a certain sort of dramatic pitch that everyone stays focused even between their turns. And then you turn it off and suddenly, oh, we're chatting now. This is the time to actually ask about your mum and how she's doing, and then we can actually have that social connection as well, which is super cool.
Absolutely, and I love how you guys incorporate like community, and you seem to be very in touch with them. As a creative person, not all creative people are like that. They want to be the genius. They don't want to incorporate suggestion or listen to other people or let a piece of software randomly pick and choose how things are played.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So how, like, have you always been like that, or was that something that you had to learn?
That's a fascinating question. I mean, I guess the thing is with the What Opera project, which I mentioned, that creative project, I was going in as a composer. And we really did honestly allow the participants to have complete creative control. So some school kids took a while to grasp that, you know. It's like, no, they're kind of waiting to be told. Especially the richer kids, you know, in the private schools where they're, you know, like the marks are really, really super important. They were kind of waiting for us to give them the cues. Like, no,
type A personality.
just go for it. That's right. And so I guess I had that forcibly practiced on me, and we used to keep each other in check. The director and the composer together. Sort of, we'd be kind of like, I have an idea. I know how it should end. And yet we were really, really wanted to give complete control.
That is amazing.
And grown-ups had a big problem with that sometimes. You know, they were really freaked out. The students would do something really disrespectful, or that didn't make a logical sense.
It's actually a very brave thing to do, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And the effect on young people being given the chance to express their ideas is really, really huge.
Yeah, that sounds incredible.
And also some of the amazing ideas that come out of the community, the interesting uses, because to go back to sort of how things have changed over the 10 years. I mean, I've been in the tabletop industry for 20 years now, and you know, there was a time where it was unheard of that you were going to bring something to the table other than your dice and your pencil and your piece of paper and maybe your book, right? So changing minds to make it okay to have sound at the table was a big start of it. But then taking it a step further and seeing what the community does with it is amazing, right? I mean, we have, like Ben said, we have the sound set creator, which is literally the tool that we use to make these sounds. Making that available for our community to use for themselves. They're creating their own sound sets and then posting them to our forums and sharing them with the community worldwide. And then we also get people who are using Syrinscape in unexpected places. You know, we're finding, you know, educators or doctors' offices, or people either for background sounds or something. Haunted houses, stores with game nights.
Or post-traumatic stress syndrome soldiers being
like desensitization.
It's working well with kids with autism. We're hearing reports of that. So there's a lot of different really cool uses that are taking it beyond the gaming table, which we're pretty proud of.
So speaking of unusual uses, there's this thing called
I love
Twitch.
that segue.
Where we're on right now. And if you guys haven't heard about me and what I do, I work on a channel called Hyper RPG. I founded that with Zach Eubank, and we play a multitude of tabletop RPGs, D&D, Pathfinder, Edge of the Empire. We're getting ready for a Warhammer show, 10 Candles.
No big deal.
We've even done like indie RPGs, Fate, right? And we have basically been using Syrinscape from the beginning. But do you guys remember when you were first hearing your own sounds on Twitch, and this was a whole phenomenon? I mean, this wasn't here 10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, Twitch is one of the main ways people find out about Syrinscape now. Because the Hyper RPG guys are using it, which is thank you, and it's great. I'm glad we're getting to make your dramas more dramatic and everything. Maze Arcana use it.
Yes.
Obviously,
over at Geek and Sundry.
Yeah, Geek and Sundry, Critical Role. I've been using it for ages and ages. So Matt uses it to run all. He's got the permission to use all these computer game soundtracks from all over the place. So he uploads them up in using the creator and uploads onto the server, and then organizes them in Syrinscape and just uses them to trigger that. Plus adding in storm and thunder and rain and fire and all that sort of stuff. So
we actually got Matt Mercer into the Sound Cave here at Gen Con a couple of years ago, which was pretty great. We got to record his NPCs. So
can I show the NPC? It's super fun.
Oh, I would love to listen. Matt is just
so you download Syrinscape for free. Just thought we should tell you some of the basics. You don't even have to register or anything, and the whole lot of content comes for free. 8 sound sets.
Even 10 years ago, it's been free, and ever since.
Of course, people need to be able to use something basic,
We actually just increased the value of the free service as well. So, I mean, we monetize with, there are subscriptions, and you can buy standalone sound sets from our store, but we actually just added 6 new sound sets to the free downloads. So there's actually a pretty comprehensive set already for pretty much any fantasy RPG RPG you're going to play.
And Storm that I mixed in.
Yeah.
So
what other sounds are there
So
besides
so one of the things you can buy, I'll tell you about other genres as well, but one of the things you can buy is Matt's, one of Matt's most beloved characters, the Black Power salesman. So you can, and so there's locations like town or a flooded dungeon or a swamp. Then there's creatures, which are like dragons and bugbears and owlbears, all sorts of things. Another thing we do are NPCs. And so you can actually interact with these characters like you used to kind of in one of those basic text-based adventures, you know. Obviously we can only offer a certain number of responses, but if they're themed closely around the actual encounter, you can kind of have quite a lot of fun. So this is Victor, who might come into his shop.
Hello, it's good to see you. What can I do for you?
Oh, hello. You look a bit injured. Are you all right, Victor?
Yeah, it stings a little, but it's okay.
But you've got bits hanging off.
It's just a scratch. And a burn. And a few missing fingers.
Okay, it was good. You have some black powder, I gather, then?
Yeah.
Oh, you can sell some of it to us?
I don't. Oh, yes.
Is it going to be is it good quality?
Yes.
Yeah. See, there's 3 different yeses there, because you wouldn't want it to be the same.
And do you also have nose?
Mm-hmm. You'll give us a good price, won't you, Victor?
No.
And so on and so on. So there's sort of all the sort of responses you might need for that sort of encounter. And obviously, if you want to go off script, then the GM can just then imitate the voice, and we've all got that kind of cue of exactly what the character sounds like. We've got NPCs from amazing people like James Jacobs, who gave us a fantastic tavern keep, for which my favorite sound is this one.
James Jacobs, creative director at Paizo, Pathfinder.
Yep. Jason Bullman, who's obviously famous in D&D and Pathfinder as well. Some actually just some community ones that people have made as well. So yeah, lots of cool things. How did we come to that? Yes.
How do community members contribute to the library?
So one of the biggest challenges from us, in fact, has been the expansion of the content on the servers. Because we have almost 400 official sound sets, which are our own.
And about how many sounds are in each sound set?
Oh yeah, 120 or absolutely. Usually 3 to 5 full-length orchestral works or rock band works or you know.
And are you composing all those pieces?
Not all of them.
Okay,
I was the only guy in the company at all and wrote everything. Yeah.
Did all the voices and all the sounds and all the music.
But as I said,
and were they like live recordings and stuff?
Yeah, often. Yeah, usually. Yeah, absolutely.
That is so cool.
And then so now I do about 50% of the work, and that's something I'm really holding on to. As the company grows and more and more license partners and stuff, like I'm becoming more and more a CEO and doing relationships and fun and being interviewed and all this stuff. But I always want to hold on to some sound design too.
Of course.
There's usually those big music tracks, and then if you've got a city, you need at least 20 people selling something. 20 sounds of carts going by. So the car might go by only every 15-20 minutes, but it's just never going to hear the same sound. The cathedral bells, dogs woofing, the gulls, the sound of the wind, like lots and lots and lots and lots. So that's the 400 sound sets that we've produced. There are now more than 8,000 sound sets already since we released the Soundset Creator, and that's just been hammering our servers like nothing else. So we've had to, we've been upscaling. Fortunately, we use Amazon, which we can literally kind of turn up the dials. Every week we come back and check the servers and turn all the dials up so that we can cope with the big flush of stuff from the community.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
8,000? I don't even think I knew that figure. That's crazy.
So when you want to just make a sound set for yourself, using like any sources, your own voice, you might want to make the evil speeches for the end of your campaign, or you might like to take the computer game music from Neverwinter Nights 2 that you own and import it into Syrinscape, upload that to the server. It just becomes content you own personally and you use for your own private use.
Right.
And then you can propose stuff as community content to share. And that's super cool.
That sounds like you have fostered a really incredible community from the beginning, because you were providing this for free on RPG.net and all those amazing things. I mean, we've been having a blast with it. I think when you talk about Edge of Your Seat, I think of 10 Candles, our show. It's a tragic horror-based RPG. There's no way out of this. You're gone.
Is that right?
It's not if, it's how and when, right? And the game designers are really clever in that you start with 10 candles, and then you
physical candles.
Yes, we extinguish them on the show. It
gets darker?
Yes, it literally gets darker in the room.
I like it.
And then you mix it with this incredible atmospheric, deep sound design work, and it's so funny that some of our performers, professional actors that have been on television and stages all over LA, they're like too scared.
Yeah, that's right.
And you can see them trying to diffuse the situation.
Yeah, that's right.
And they'll like try to crack a joke or like not take it seriously. But Zach is he's just a deadpan, serious. He loves playing these creepy characters, compounded with the music and our lighting design in our studio. And they're just like,
Creepy.
yes.
Creepy.
Yeah, for sure.
There you go. The cool thing is, like, you can just sort of there's a one here called Elements Horror, and you literally just go tension level 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4.
Syrinscape set up so that you can, what I'll say, Americans get this reference, press set it and forget it, right? You can just press play and let it go, and it'll, and the sound sets that we've created are made to sort of follow along the adventure that you're playing, but then there are lots of options for customizing it, either before or during your game. You know, you can put your own sounds together to have your own sound set for your game, or we have things like one-shots.
Yes.
Single thing you just play once.
So say your wizard casts a magic missile. Or a fireball.
Wow.
And then you'll see on the app, and the Wilhelm scream.
Everybody the day I discovered this public domain, I was overjoyed.
And then you'll see on the Syrinscape app there are sliders on the interface. So maybe there are just too many war drums going on, and you can slide the music down, or you want more thunder or something. So you can not only just sort of set it and forget it, but there are also these various elements that you can control to make it more fitting to your game.
At Hyper RPG, we'll have both a GM, and we actually have a dedicated live sound editor who ties it into our camera cuts. So we don't set it and forget it. We're like, this is our instrument, and it's been the best tool, and there's nothing out there like it for us.
That's cool.
So you say a sound, but I'm listening to these sounds. There's actually many layered sounds to create one sound effect.
That's right.
I think you said you're willing to walk us through kind of that process.
Yeah. So we recently are super excited to announce that we're producing the official sounds for the Dungeons and Dragons RPG. So their product, Dragon Heist, which they're releasing in September, I believe, will come out day and date with a complete audio solution for the adventure. And the best thing about that is, rather than having to kind of, I've got the yawning portal, what sort of tavern is it, what sort of sounds will it need, and then a troll's going to come, so I'm going to have to find a troll. We actually prepare that adventure all through, so you're literally just clicking through, essentially the chapter headings in bold, and that makes a huge difference. So, as part of that, we went and visited the Dungeons & Dragons RPG offices and worked with Chris Perkins and Chris Lindsay and a whole lot of the staff. Mike Wells,
Wow, to really
having the
build
conversations like, so what does a beholder sound like?
Yes, that was
what motivates the beholder?
That was the first thing I was thinking about. I have this little mini of an undead beholder, and I'm thinking about the little eyeballs and the teeth.
So working with the creative team that makes the game to make the sounds that are in their heads about what these legendary creatures and settings all sound like.
After the stream, totally go to Facebook Syrinscape, so search for Syrinscape, and on that is a video of Chris Perkins recording the voice of the Xenophar, who's obsessed with his goldfish. And it's quite incredible. You can see the way he embodies the creature. And in the video, I actually mix from the dry version of his, which was a fantastic performance, but into an affected performance, where we just add a little bit of some extra oomph to it. And it's quite freaky and quite incredible. So and say hi as well. Say you're hi, listening to the stream.
Can we listen to any of those?
Yeah, so I can step you through. So that's right. So
D&D
That's
sounds.
right. So the Yawning Portal, right, is the amazing tavern in Waterdeep. And so I guess I could show you just how some of those layers go together.
Sure.
First, have a listen to the whole thing. Okay.
I think all of those voices are the team at the D&D team in the conference room. We're recording everybody.
Okay, so now I'm going to stop them all and turn them on one by one. So this is just a normal day. So there is one long recording of a raucous crowd. In fact, it's 3 long recordings, all sort of cross-fading and looping and positioning differently. So that's one. And then there's another layer of that. Yeah. I noticed particularly how there's elements in that when it's playing by itself that kind of catch your ear.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing, yeah?
Right. Well, actually, it's interesting because I'm kind of like, oh, it sounded like a word, but it sounded kind of like more or, you know, it sounded like English.
That's right. Yeah. And we did that deliberately. We actually, they were reading backwards from texts.
Oh,
They were reading backwards from D&D books.
Oh.
We're backmasking. That's right. And then there's this extra hubbub in there as well. So that it gets added in there as well. And once all those 3 layers are all layered and all combining in all different ways, because they can never start and stop together because they're all different lengths, then that adds up to kind of a blended kind of thing.
Right.
Then, in addition to that, I'll skip the drunken songs for the moment. There are these. Now these are set to just play every now and then. See that boo just went, and then there's a random pause.
Right.
And then another one went. That one was a bit further away, and there's a random pause. That would also be really awkward by itself, wouldn't it? And another one.
I mean, it depends on the context, right? So if there's some kind of call and response situation,
that's right.
There's a performer in this tavern, like that's why there would be pauses.
And once what I'll do in the end is add them all together, and you see how they all, when they're all blended together, the right way they're saying good. And here's gamblers, which are even less frequently. So these are individuals.
This one.
There you go. So imagine once all the other sound was going, that would have almost been inaudible. But it adds to that a layer of realism, because it's a natural, organic, growing sound. And that's super important. I can't emphasize enough. I mean, the whole point I made Syrinscape is to avoid people seeing those patterns and noticing that sort of lack of realism.
Please give me more tips for any GMs at home who are using Syrinscape or interested, and because you have given them the building blocks, but what kind of things should you keep in mind to make a really great environment?
Yeah, that's right. I'll show you one more thing. This is the most important thing you should keep in mind. So those songs happen as well. Now I'll turn them all on, just with one click. That's all you have to do to make all that happen. And now it's going. You hear all that hubbub together?
Right.
And that's going to be the yawning portal?
That's the yawning portal.
That's the yawning portal.
Until the troll attacks, at which point it sounds like this. That's the official voice of Durnan. Now you asked about tips for GM.
Right. Oh, we wanted to take that from the audience too.
Questions,
if folks want to ask for tips on let us know what game they're playing. And Ben can suggest an apropos sound set to go with that game.
Yes.
And if I don't know if they want to do it in the chat, or if they want to tweet for us, tag Syrinscape, say Syrinscape me, and we'll choose and give some prizes to the folks who do that.
Wait a second. There are things to win. Elaborate one more time.
Well, we've got
because
some prizes.
some people might be watching this a little after Gen Con.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
on VOD.
We can do this. So we're going to be giving away a few things today.
Okay.
We've got, first we have our Syrinscape gift cards. These are
so beautiful,
iTunes-style gift cards for friendly local game shops. We believe that they're a first, so very exciting. They come with a scratch-off card on the inside, and each will give you $20 worth of credit on Syrinscape.com. So we've got those, and then we've got our fabulous device pouch. Also can be used as a dice bag,
Everything is a dice bag.
So yeah, if you want to either jump in the comments or tweet or post, tag Syrinscape, let us know the game that you're playing, and Ben will give you some pro tips for incorporating Syrinscape sound into it.
Cool.
And then after Gen Con, we'll pick some winners and send you some
So
goodies.
maybe post like Syrinscape rules, but what sound should I use for a blah?
Yeah.
That could be fun,
Yeah,
And then I'll give you some answers. And then like hashtag I can win stuff if I ask this question or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do hashtag I can win stuff, bloody, bloody.
No, you had one. You said hashtag.
Syrinscape me.
That's right. Syrinscape me. That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And try and be difficult because I know you're going to be difficult.
I know, stop it.
I actually have the official. I have the official advice on what a flump sounds like. So if you need to ask that, I can say.
All right. So what does a flump sound like?
a long decaying scream as it deflates like a kind of a fart. Is what the official was.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, you guys have a YouTube channel as well. What kind of content can we find on there?
The Dice Stormers, really.
No, I think she's talking about the Syrinscape channel, which is where we've got lots of advice on how to, how to use Syrinscape to create atmosphere and also how to build sounds for yourself when using the creator. But every single sound set that's in Syrinscape has a demo from me, a little brief thing, so you can hear it.
Okay.
But also we've got videos about how to create atmosphere and how to create drama and how to really sort of use some of those techniques we've already mentioned, like amping up the tension and lowering the tension and all those sorts of things.
We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year with a program we're calling the Year of Atmosphere.
Okay.
And so the Year of Atmosphere, we're taking sort of every quarterly or so, we're giving little online workshops and videos of how to create specific atmospheres at the table. So we had the Hero's Journey, which came out for summer, which actually documented Ben's trip to the Dungeons and Dragons office and culminating with making great sounds for D&D. And then come fall, of course, we're going to have the Atmosphere, FEAR, and it'll be pro tips for how to bring the best sounds to your horror and other sort of spooky, scary games.
Yeah, we recently signed a license with Chaosium to make the official sounds for Call of Cthulhu.
Oh,
which is
nice.
kind of,
you told me that you're a fan, right?
Yeah, totally. So I'm basically, D&D and Pathfinder and Call of Cthulhu are the games that I play.
Wow.
With a smattering of Star Wars D6 on the side. And we're still seeking a license with them, but obviously they're like a great big thing. Call of Chaosium have made a gorgeous version of the game with 7th edition, and they're releasing Masks of Nyarlathotep. They've released the PDF, and you can buy the book soon.
Okay.
So once again, we're preparing the complete audio solution for that adventure. It starts in Lima in Peru.
Oh wow!
In a cafe there. So we've got 1920s music on the jukebox in the background, and the sound of kind of alpacas or llamas. I can never remember which one. I always get it wrong. I think it's alpacas. And so once again, you can sort of step through that adventure, and all the creatures are there, all the spooky locations are there, and all the prep work is done for you, which is super important. So you don't need to think about that or create that. We've done it for you, and great adventure, beautifully presented.
What is it like collaborate? I mean, so you're a music genius and a developer and a gamer, but it took a while to become an official company. Are you doing Syrinscape full time?
I am doing Syrinscape full time.
Amazing.
Absolutely,
And now actually working with the developers of games that you've been playing for years and years. Like what? How's? Are you like fanboying?
Totally, absolutely. Jenny's just seen it over and over again. So there was when we were tiny, teeny, weeny. Jenny shoehorned me into an interview like this by promising James Jacobs and sort of slotting me on in the side. And my favourite module in the world is Red Hand of Doom, which he wrote for 3rd edition D&D, and like it's amazing writing. And I love sandboxy adventures where you can really let the players just add into the situation. You know some things that are going to happen, and you've got some encounters ready. You can throw at them if you need to. And so I was like, hello, wow, I love your work, blah blah blah. And now he's just like a really great friend who I've worked with, and we back and forwards on what things sound like in Pathfinder. So doing Curse of the Crimson Throne for Pathfinder now is a hugely popular adventure. They've just re-released it in hardback.
Yeah.
And so we're getting to bring that sort of world of Corvosa to life.
Yeah, with the release of these different books. That's amazing.
And working to create the official sounds of these legendary games, right? I mean, that's I know that's been a huge part of it. I mean, the sounds that, like I said earlier, that we're creating for Pathfinder RPG or D&D RPG. These are going to be what the Beholder sounds like forevermore. For example.
What does the Beholder?
That's right.
Do we have that yet? I don't know if we can release that yet.
Okay.
You can hear the Xanathar on the Facebook page. Go to Syrinscape Facebook page, add a like and a follow, and you'll hear the transformation of Chris Perkins' voice from his voice which was an amazing performance, which had, like, honestly, 85% of the content there in it, and then you'll hear the effects that come on to make it really, really turn into the beholder.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, Mike Merles and I were recording the other day at the Wizards of the Coast offices, and we had this. It was really amazing. We were reading a piece of box text he was reading a piece of box text as one of the characters from Dragon Heist, and we had a really interesting moment. He read it, and he read it in a box text way.
Okay.
He said, "Oh no, my father is definitely not into that," or whatever it was, kind of thing. And he read it like a beautiful narrative with a lovely round voice and lovely enunciation. And then there was kind of this moment where we looked at each other and we thought, hang on, what are we doing here? And we talked about the motivation of the character and what it would actually really sound like if it was. And he just was like, "What am I doing? Like, this is crazy. Why was I reading this like it's a storybook, you know?" And he's, of course, a genius. So he just flicked straight over into being this character. And the difference is like night and day.
Wow.
And so if we can we're probably going to release that little bit of audio or some sort of little tutorial or something. He was super keen to do some of that to knock us GMs out of kind of like, you know, sort of dungeon mastering mode where we're kind of just sort of, doing pattern talk, but really embodying the character. And that's a really exciting thing. And that was a cool moment.
Right. Actually, you've brought up a really great point. Sometimes as a GM, I struggle to describe a new environment or setting because what we're describing is fantasy or science fiction.
Absolutely.
So I haven't even experienced it in my mind, and it may, I may have like a color palette or a temperature for the location, but I don't have all the other pieces.
That's right.
So Syrinscape has helped me kind of elaborate or tell the same story in a different language, a sonic language, what I'm trying to communicate.
Yeah, it just takes a lot of the load off because you can move to the next sort of level immediately because the environment is kind of painted. So I'm just sort of looking for pirate ships kind of, out at sea. So if you sort of already got that going, then you can actually talk about the drama of what's happening, what they see, what the captain's wearing, all the visual things and the smell, because a lot of the general slosh of the waves and all that sort of stuff is done for you. Here's a really beautiful one, which may not come over on the perfectly beautiful little microphone.
Speaker.
The speaker's gorgeous, yay for JBL, but miking it's hard since we don't have a line in. But here's a beautiful, beautiful flooded cavern. Lovely. So that drip sample is a complete.
Very close.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And that's a completely dry recording of a drip. It's like bloop, with no echo or no reverb. And so if I go bloop in the room, it doesn't decay. But when it's put into Syrinscape and put into the machine, that one happened to be close, and then it had that long reverb tail. That lovely. Yeah, hear that one? That was far away. Yeah.
That was farther. That was like I walked into a wet cavern and something hit me on the face.
That's
or
right.
something.
Yeah.
And I'm like. Oh.
And this is, and then once you sort of add the music in gently, that was too loud, sorry. Just turn it down a bit, and suddenly we've got kind of a nice sort of, suddenly the cavern's become more epic, hasn't it?
Right, and there's a sense of anticipation to the mystery now.
And there's the 2 touches I've done, so and that's all you have to do.
That was very simple and quick to set up. Jenny, do you have a personal favorite collection or something that you might have used?
I'm actually a big fan of the High Seas battle and the sea shanties. Well,
should I trigger it properly because I didn't actually do the full scale pirate battle, did I?
And the Red Dragon is sort of all of our favorites, I think.
So here's the High Seas battle in full bore. Now what you can do, remember, say you don't like silly sea shanty pirates, you want epic pirates, we turn off that pirate music, we go over to a different...
Pirates or something.
Yeah, that's right. We go over to this music instead. Yeah, totally different pirates.
Yeah.
And then I go back to the High Seas battle, and I would save a preset, bing, and I'm going to call it Epic Pirates. There you go. And now that becomes a single click, boom, Epic Pirates, and it goes into that mode instead. Oh, but actually I like sea shanty pirates. Of course, it doesn't cut off. You don't have to hit stop on the recording and start a different recording. It just crossfades completely smoothly.
It sounds like a tavern brawl, but it happened on the ship.
Absolutely.
Like they're getting a little stir crazy. They had too much to drink. They've run out of water.
Totally.
This is what happened. That's amazing. So you have thousands and thousands of sounds in your library. You've been making them for over a decade. How do you know what to make next? It sounds like you have it all covered.
Yeah, there's two pathways.
Sure.
So our license partners mean that we, I'm going to put something more peaceful on. Right, suffering through the sandstorm, there we are.
I was going to say my next favorite is basically anything that blows up or fire,
That's
dragons too. So yeah, go with the quieter one, that's good.
You are metal. Rock and roll.
This is no.
There's two vectors for deciding what to build.
Yeah.
One is, so we're building Curse of the Crimson Throne for Pathfinder.
Yeah.
We're building Dragon Heist
Okay.
for Dungeons & Dragons RPG, and we're building Masters of Nyarlathotep for Call of Cthulhu. In those adventures, we hit certain extremely useful locations and extremely useful monsters. So we literally have never built a troll before, and it appears in Dragon Heist.
Yeah.
So that's our opportunity to talk to geniuses and chat about what a troll sounds like, record performances of a troll, back and forwards, what the troll sounds like, produce that troll in the sound set, and then we pop that out of the Dragon Heist Adventure Chapter 2 somewhere, who knows where it is, and make a troll battle.
Cool.
And we just basically keep doing that over and over again.
Wow.
And so Masters of Nyarlathotep might, sort of make, South American cafe will now be a sound set pretty soon, because we'll just pop that out and make that an individual sound set.
Oh, cool.
And the other pathway for finding out what to do is basically people asking for stuff.
Yeah.
So literally, there's a no one expects a Spanish Inquisition. There's a third way, asking for stuff on the forums and saying, why have you not built this yet? And then the last one is community content. So we had never done a jungle. Tropical jungle, and someone built a jungle, and they said, hey, listen to this, do you think this is fine?
Sure.
I was like, wow, that's good, that's perfect. I'll tweak a tiny bit, and can I share this with the community?
Oh, wow.
So now there's a big jungle sound set.
Nice.
And so that's how stuff appears. It really is very, very, in fact, most of the good sort of aspects of Syrinscape that weren't there originally were basically from people complaining and or suggesting. Both valid pathways.
Yeah. Well, I have a selfish request. I was the GM of the Power Rangers Hyperforce RPG, and we actually visited different seasons of Power Rangers. And there's one season in particular, it's my personal favorite. It's called Power Rangers RPM. And they were inspired by Mad Max. So these Power Rangers are fighting in a very arid desert kind of landscape. But what's interesting, and I actually struggle to describe this, is in the show there's this like nasty yellow or reddish brown haze because it's a toxic wasteland. It's the apocalypse. So there's already the harshness of the dry desert, but it's not like if I took a trip to the Middle East or something. That plus this toxic decay, and I get the sense like it's hard to breathe, it's very uncomfortable to be there, and in this world, there's only one safe haven city, so as soon as you leave that protective bubble, it's nasty, and I really wanted to communicate that to my players. I didn't want them to be like, cool, we're out, it's the apocalypse, it's a stroll in the park.
That's right.
No. It's Tucson.
Do they wear breathing masks?
So the Rangers have to use their helmets to filter.
So that's like a bit of toxic spirit, which is one of our sound sets. You'd probably add in a bit of desert kind of thing.
Okay.
And now there's a breathing mask on top of that.
Oh, nice.
And there you go.
That's so
But that's not an individual, that's like just 3 bits from 3 different places kind of thing.
And suddenly I realized I asked him to make me feel claustrophobic.
That's right. That's right. Oh, that's right. And let's go somewhere nicer.
Yeah.
Yeah, how's about this?
I can breathe again.
That's right.
Yeah. Totally. It was getting a little hot.
Yeah, no, that
you're
was
right.
amazing.
See, one thing that's like not in, I mean, you can create most of these things close enough. Sound is a very much thing that's kind of close enough is good enough.
Right.
So for instance, that red dragon battle,
Right.
any large larynxed creature, it will count as,
Yes.
and
also they find monsters in the desert too.
that's right, so you'd add in those sounds.
Don't we have a giant sandworm?
We do have a giant sandworm.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Just any kind of fantasy or sci-fi thing that goes to the desert, you will happen upon a hole in the ground with a, just
Listen
giant
to
sandworm.
this. This is amazing. They have laser guns. That's right, I could just play with this all day. I was doing a demo the other day of, sorry, you can ask your question in a sec, of the car chase. We have like these car chase sound sets.
Sure.
And if you watch the demo video of, so I think it's called Car Chase 2015 or something like that, and you can see me actually have a geek out moment about my own stuff. It's quite tragic. It's hilarious. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. This toy is like, yay, toy. So,
yeah. And then everything that you created there, what's really interesting is the players could use this and they're like, okay, we're heroes. I'm going to power through this horrible environment I just walked through.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, we're being shot at. Or there's a sense of despair. Maybe I rolled, you know, critical fail, and you know, and then you can layer the music theme on top of that, and you can take that to, you know, a place of heroism and strength, or a place of just tragedy and horror, right? Oh my gosh! So so maybe this is a strange question to ask. You're a gamer, DM, GM, also, you know, sound designer, creator of Syrinscape. Have you learned things about sound by using your own software?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So all the basic stuff, like when you're watching Psycho, you don't. It's the one with the shower scene. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. You don't think, oh my God, this lady's in trouble because the trombones are playing a tritone or whatever. There's certain musical cue or whatever, and then you know exactly what's happening when the strings play a chromatic cluster. The audience doesn't go, oh, look, note that you know, musical leitmotif, but it's having a subliminal effect on me. Yeah. I've really learned more and more and more about that. You know, the power of the leitmotif is really quite incredible. So in Jaws, when you just hear da-dum, you know, that's all you have to do, and everyone's suddenly thinking, "There's a shark under my feet." Yes. And then the power of the, the musical leitmotif, but also the sound motif. So certain subliminal sounds, like a deep sound and then a really, really high sound combined with a big gap in the middle. You know, nothing that sounds human, because all our human voices are in the mid-range. The sound guy knows that. And so if you leave that empty, it leaves you kind of with a really serious sense of unease. And about 100 other things which I could really geek out about now. But yeah.
And things that cause physiological responses that hit you in your heart or your belly, right?
That's right.
I don't know why I'm just asking for all these
negative
emotions.
All right. And here it comes.
I'm just thinking if I can find a ghost, because that was a really fascinating one, the reverse reverb thing. I don't think I've got any loaded up, and there's like no internet here at Gen Con because everyone is using it. But there's some really fun audio processing techniques. A lot of what I've done has been like, how do I make a ghost sound? And then, you know, finding advice and then experimenting with it, which is super cool.
Interesting. So, quick question. You guys, I've gotten so much more. I mean, we've been using Syrinscape for years, but just like meeting you and Jenny and Gen Con and just, you guys are gamers. You love this stuff. I love it. Yeah. How can I get started, participate in the community, maybe contribute, and also support Syrinscape in your development?
Well, I would love to have you. Are we going to record while we're here?
Should we record you?
Yeah.
That's
okay, we have about like 8 minutes.
So while I get set up.
While you get set up, then I can say, so if folks want to use Syrinscape, they'll go to Syrinscape.com, they'll download the client for free, and then with that download, they'll actually get 8 free sound sets to get started with, which is a pretty good chunk if you're playing a fantasy tabletop game. You know, we're setting you up pretty well with that. And it's free to use. If you love it, and we know you will, then we hope that you'll become a subscriber. That's kind of the end game. We have the fantasy subscription. So if you're just playing fantasy games, you know, you're not going to maybe care so much about the sci-fi stuff, or vice versa. If you're mostly playing sci-fi games and not interested in the fantasy, then you can just subscribe to that track as well. But ideally, everyone will become a Super Siren subscriber, which unlocks absolutely everything, all of the sound libraries, all of the official sounds for all of the games we mentioned today. But then becoming a Super Siren subscriber also gives you access to the Soundset Creator tool, so you can make your own stuff. And also, we just launched Syrinscape Online, which is pretty amazing as well. I'll let Ben tell you about Syrinscape Online.
Yeah, and while I tell you, you have to think of what creature you're going to give me. You're going to give me 5 different sounds of different sorts of vocalization types of that creature. And that will we've just got 5 minutes more. It will only take 3 minutes.
Maybe give me like 5 emotions.
That's right.
You can be the director.
The creature. Okay, so if you've got a creature in mind. So Syrinscape Online is a solution for when you're playing with Roll20
Right.
or Fantasy Grounds or D20 Pro or any virtual tabletop. So in the past, people have been routing Syrinscape through their voice client, through Skype or whatever they're using. But of course, you're using up bandwidth and you're also compressing the wonderfully glorious, gorgeous sounds of Syrinscape. Just go to syrinscape.com/online and your players will download a little box, which just runs on their PC.
Okay.
You just go to an interface that looks very much like the current interface, but it's in a browser.
Oh, nice.
And you just click the
so
same
then
buttons.
You could run that also in an iPad or a mobile device.
Yep, you could have absolutely browser-based. And when you click Wilhelm Scream, it just goes to our server and that gets transmitted out to everyone's little devices. And bing, the Wilhelm Scream plays on their little device. And what's the coolest thing? With the development of the internet since 10 years ago, the players don't even need to preload the content. So when we hit that pirate battle, our servers send all the samples immediately to the clients, and then it starts playing the pirate battle as soon as it can. Okay. First time you play it, you might get like click, boom, pirate battle, like a 2-second latency or whatever. But then it's cached and it happens instantly after that.
Oh, okay. Amazing.
So that's
I think, if you really want to scare your players, control the sound remotely coming out of their device. I think that's pretty awesome.
Amazing.
All right, so a creature, and then we'll make this available to people.
All right, maybe some kind of like bug or robot, that kind of creature.
Cool.
Yes.
So are we having a fight with this creature?
Yeah, let's have a fight with this creature.
So fight vocalizations include effort, as in what you're going to do when you throw, injured ones, kind of thing, and then general aggressive roars, and then maybe some taunts. Okay. And to get realism and variation, blah, 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 we need at least 5 of each thing.
All right, at least 5 of each thing. All right, we're
no pressure.
They don't need to be radically different. They can be literally the same sound produced, but there will be little differences in it. Okay.
All right, just let me know what to start with.
Good. So effort. Fantastic. And now like attack sounds. And 3 more. It's fantastic. I'm thinking we can do some cool robot kind of processing.
Sure.
Okay, and then like really aggressive sounds. Short is better, so don't let it trail on.
Okay.
Fantastic. And then some taunts, like I will destroy you or something, or. And 2 more.
Okay.
Totally cool. So I'm going to make a video, which we'll post soon, of me processing those sounds and turning them into a cool robot attack droid.
And then you'll officially be a part of the community.
Yay!
Yay!
Good. And and you'll see just how easy it is to get reasonable sound out of even just a standard device like a phone.
I did not choose any words, so that it could be, any language or culture.
Couldn't agree more. There's you asked for tips. That's one really important one. Don't put English in. Almost certainly, unless you're really interacting with an NPC that you want people to focus on.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. That was so much fun. Yeah. We got a minute left. We got to wrap up. The website's probably the best place to find out more. Syrinscape.com.
Yep, Syrinscape.com. You can even misspell it in Google. It knows us and loves us.
Oh, amazing. But you also are on Facebook, YouTube,
and
Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, all the places.
How do you do social media for an audio company?
We post little videos of work.
I was going to say, wait and see. We're going to have a great video of you going.
You'll see.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, again, going back to the community, right? People can send us sounds. We get to talk about the great games that we're working with, our great partners, and posting videos, embarrassing our friends and fellow game designers.
When we do it, we can add a link to the video I make of processing your voice to this video, presumably.
Yay! Well, Ben, Jen, I didn't do that on purpose, but thank you so much, guys. Check out Syrinscape. Add it to your tabletop role-playing adventure. Actually, any tabletop adventure. It's so much fun. It will add so much to all of your time that you're spending with your friends and going to fantastic places. Take care. Don't go away. I think there are more interviews coming up in about 30 minutes.